All right, all right. Hello, hello. Welcome everyone back to, I believe it's week 5. Big K, are you counting? Destination Happy Hour. Here we are.
Yeah, it's been at least 5. Yeah, about 5. I mean, my destination is returned to normal.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Well, we have
yeah,
we have a new guest in the cabana. So Just Ask Jesse is with us. How are you doing, my good sir?
Doing well, doing well.
Great to have you finally on. I was just saying in the green room. I wanted to kind of do like a PulseChain liquid loans ish kind of thing as we got closer, but with PulseChain getting pushed back to who knows when, it's just just a constant state of limbo right now. Plus some other comments with other members of the Hexkin and PulseChain communities. I figured what better time to have you on and to give your side of some things. We got like a whole question list here for you,
Right.
but also I. Wanted to talk some Ethereum Merge stuff because you've been tweeting about that as well. I think it's Just Ask Jesse on Twitter. So
Right.
lots of stuff going on there. The Vitalik thing today, he sent me that. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, how come that video? I was surprised. Like that video didn't have way more traction. Like I saw that and I was like, how come nobody's sharing this thing? I mean,
They don't want to. It's like this kind of thing. It's like it's the echo chamber, I think, mentality. It's like, okay, we're just gonna hush about this. It's like whatever crypto community, right? If something
Right.
doesn't sit in the best light, then it's like, oh, let's not talk about that. Let's not share it.
Right.
I don't
And
know.
just for context here for the audience, Richard Hart gets called a scammer all the time. He gets
Yeah.
told he's taking everybody's money. He's just like milking everything. But literally, meanwhile, the price of Hex, did its 10,000x from the bottom, made a lot of people wealthy. It's in a bit of a retrace right now. So like I'm just looking around and I find this video where Vitalik admits that he just recently sold 70,000 ETH at the top. That is, he literally created the top.
I mean,
And he was asked if he shorted it also, and he kind of chuckled about that and really didn't give an answer. So, like one of the biggest founders in crypto, Vitalik himself, admitted to dumping on everybody's head and creating the top, and nobody cares. That doesn't make him a scammer or a bad guy or anything. Meanwhile, Richard, who doesn't sell a single coin, or at least the OA addresses, the coins never sell, he's called a scammer, and I just find it a really bad double standard.
I mean, it's even further of a double standard because Vitalik goes to say that not like I personally dumped my coins, but he even goes as far as to say I convinced the Ethereum Foundation to dump coins. Like I went out of my way to make the foundation also make that same maneuver as well. So like, I mean, that's even deeper of a cut, Like, oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, you could have told all of us too, you could have dropped a little tweet and maybe called the top for all of us.
Dropped a little tweet.
Right.
Yeah. We came in hot there a little bit. Just wanted to, at least give Jesse a little intro. But first, Big K, the most important question: what are you drinking?
Yes. It's actually, I love Napa cabs, and this one is, as they would say, textbook. So it is literally a textbook Napa cab. I mean,
that was a textbook dump at the top from Vitalik too.
Textbook, expected.
And somebody was asking in the video what video. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse. Just Ask Jesse on Twitter.
Yep.
You posted the video there, so go to his account and check that out. And yeah, like I said, we came in hot there a little bit, but Jesse, for those who may not know. I mean, obviously, you've been everywhere. You're all across social media. You've been everywhere on the Liquid Loans channel. Just give us a background of, I guess, just yourself. And you were at one time, because I, am a fan of casinos, as is Johnny Chaos. FYI, did not know that fun fact about him until I met him. But you were also formerly known as Jesse the Pit Boss. So could you tell me a bit about that name and how that came about?
Yeah, so it seems like long ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was already in Hex, but I'd found my way in. I was probably one of the very first PulseChain Telegram users, and I started seeing people piling in there, and a bit of help was needed to educate people on how crypto works. There's just a lot of blind leading the blind. So I dedicated a lot of time in those earlier PulseChain Telegram days to just helping people understand how do liquidity pools work. What is a blockchain? Like what sets this blockchain apart from others and stuff. Countless hours, and it was fun, and I made a lot of friends. Some have turned into business partners in this some crypto endeavors. I ended up forming a Telegram of my own that's fairly private, that's got a bunch of the most influential people in Hex and PulseChain and stuff. And actually a lot of protocols that you see launching on PulseChain like evolved from people in that room, just from them all putting their heads together. Not everything on PulseChain is a scam, guys. There are some cool things. That doesn't mean they're all going to work, but there's some cool things that are launching on PulseChain. I eventually became, and by the way, my name is Jesse Pit Boss, Jesse the Pit Boss. That is literally not what people think. It's not because I'm an expert barbecue griller. It's not because I worked in a casino.
See, I was wrong. All right.
It's because my family pet was a pit bull, and pit B is short for pit bull. And I just called myself Jesse, the pit bull, or it was too long to type, so I just went with Pit B, or maybe that name was already taken or something. So I put Jesse the Pit B, or Pit Boss or something. I ended up being the head of growth and adoption for Liquid Loans for quite some time, all the way until very recently, actually. And somewhere in there was a rebrand. It just made sense to rebrand because nobody knew what that meant. But I was always the go-to guy for questions, how anything worked. So I'm just sitting around one day and I said, how do I rename myself? And Just Ask Jesse just came to mind, and it clicked with the community, and that's what I ran with. So that's my name on Twitter, Just Ask Jesse. I don't know everything. I'm not a crypto genius, but I do like to study stable coins and liquidity pools and various things going on in different types of crypto protocols. So ask me anything. If I don't know the answer and you ask it, I probably want to know the answer too. I'll probably go, oh, that's something I want to know too, and I'll go find the answer, and so everybody can know. So the name just fits.
And there we have it. See, I learned something pretty much every time I do this show, and I figured it was just a casino kind of thing, and nowhere near it. So cool deal. Big K, how you doing, man? You back in the saddle, I guess?
Oh yeah, back on island time, man. Just enjoying myself, relaxing, getting kids ready for school year, all that fun stuff. The summer days, they drifting away, they're on the way out. But I mean, it's kind of perpetually summer here, but yet like there's also life and shit happening. So yeah, that's where we're at. It was fun. I enjoyed the first pitch thing a whole lot. I enjoyed hanging out in Chicago with my friends and family for quite some time, but there's so much going on, as Jesse's mentioned, in crypto right now, that like it's really good to sit back at the command console and get back to work here, paying attention to what's going on out there. So yeah, it was cool to be here to do this, to have you aboard, Jesse, and to be talking about some of the things that are here to come.
Yeah, so we Jesse brought up Ethereum at the top, and I think we have just a whole article and talking points list that we can go through about that. That probably take most of the show to get through. You said something, Jesse, just now, like your position at Liquid Loans may have changed or something like that. I did catch that. Is there any?
Yeah, so this will be the first time that I actually publicly say this.
Oh, what?
This will be the first time that I publicly say this. But I have actually decided to step away from my official duties with Liquid Loans. This has been a great relationship with the team. They're always going to reach out to me. I'm always going to reach out to them. People are always going to come to me for questions. I'll probably continue to be the biggest advocate for Liquid Loans for years and years to come. But I felt the need, like, I want to talk about other protocols. I want to be involved in other protocols. There's a lot of good things going on in crypto besides Liquid Loans. And I want to be a part of that. And for me to be able to do that.
Forgive me, because I think your audio cut out. So the audience or the chat is saying we couldn't hear what you said, and you were kind of muffled when you said it, and I didn't hear it as well. Would you mind repeating what you said there, just at the top when you started this? They didn't hear, I guess. Yeah, what we were talking
the
about.
Whole thing?
No. Just with Liquid Loans and your position changed. Yeah.
So I'll continue to be the biggest advocate for Liquid Loans for years to come. I truly believe it is a beautiful protocol. It's needed. We have got to have a decentralized yet instant settlement stable coin factory that works beautifully. And I absolutely 100% believe that Liquid Loans is going to be wildly successful, right? And I'll always be the biggest advocate for it. My official title was Head of Growth and Adoption. And I just felt there's other protocols, there's other things in crypto that I want to pursue and that I want to talk about. And it's hard when you're the face of an organization or the head of growth and adoption, and you're very limited in what you can say, right? Because you can't endorse anything outside. Like, I couldn't endorse anything outside of Liquid Loans. So I have decided to step away from my official duties with Liquid Loans. I don't think anything's going to change. I think I'm always going to be the go-to guy. People are always going to ask me questions. I'm always going to push it and make sure the community grows. But from the official side, from the core team member side, I have stepped aside. And I think people will find that I'm involved in a lot of other cryptos that I will now be allowed to speak more and more about and help those other protocols as well, because I want to see PulseChain wildly successful. Not just from the Liquid Loans, but I want to see a lot of other things successful as well. So this just gives me a broader reach now.
And chat and audience, there you have it. So it was repeated for you. So I mean, obviously I have a bunch of questions. Probably I don't want to, poke too much, but when did you come to this decision, or was it recent? Or
this was Monday. This was Monday.
So hot off the presses. All right.
Listen, and a lot of people assumed that I was the founder. Listen, I was never the founder of Liquid Loans. Dave and Christian are the founders. I was the head of growth. I did my part to build a giant community and educate everybody for all these months. And I'll continue to do that. But I was never the founder. And I have a great relationship with those guys. Listen, I love those guys. I'm involved in some other things with those guys in the crypto sphere. So it is absolutely on good terms. But I do want to be involved in other things on the chain as well.
Got you. So I had pretty much compiled a whole question list about Liquid Loans.
Yeah, and I'll still answer them. Absolutely.
Okay.
Did you, Cabana?
Yeah, I did. I had tweets, DMs, telegrams, yeah. So replies. So thanks for all those. But yeah, I mean, we can go through some of those. I guess the first one, just in chat. Uh, I guess just a quick glance kind of thing. Just hearing this, just a first reaction. I guess Marco brings up this point. Obviously PulseChain hasn't come out, so Liquid Loans hasn't come out because Liquid Loans will follow PulseChain. But changes already for the Liquid Loans team when it hasn't even come out yet. Could that possibly raise a red flag, or why should that not raise any red flags? How would you answer that?
Well, I don't know how to answer that. Listen, the protocol is built. The protocol is on testnet. There is an Oracle solution in place. All the nodes are up and running. Everything is fully functional. There are strategic reasons for not releasing. Let me give an example. Because there's some Oracle FUD the other day, right? What protocols use oracles? Lending protocols, stablecoin protocols, right? 99% of the usage of an oracle comes from lending protocols and stablecoin protocols. So if Liquid Loans is secured, and they have a major oracle to launch on PulseChain, and that's been built, but part of that process was, say, signing an exclusivity deal until launch day. That can only help Liquid Loans have a leg up against anybody else who tries to build a stable coin or a lending protocol that could compete with it, right? So why would Liquid Loans release the info on which oracle that is? Now you could probably narrow it down, right? We know it's not Chainlink. We've heard publicly what they've said about PulseChain, and that leaves like what, 3 others? API 3, Ban, Teller. Maybe there's a couple others, but they're centralized, and of course, we don't believe in centralization. So through process of elimination, maybe you could figure it out. But it's not Liquid Loans' position to go tell everybody what that partnership is. Not yet.
So we, Jesse and I had this conversation literally right before this show. So we literally went over all these questions in a Telegram voice chat. But I do want to push back on that a little bit, just like I did earlier, Jesse, with essentially the reason why. So you're saying the reason why like it hasn't been launched yet is to kind of like safeguard like the Oracle usage, which I agree with you on the point of like stable coin. That makes sense because obviously you guys kind of want to be the premier stable coin for PulseChain. You want to safeguard that a little bit. Outside of that, I wouldn't say it would necessarily compete against a lending platform. And then like you said yourself, you're already limiting to like 2 or 3 options for Oracle. So like, is that really a good enough reason to justify not coming out with like testnet product or anything like that? Well, actually, I know that's, according to you, is not actually going to show who the Oracle is, but like, is that really a necessary to keep that under wraps? Like, what was the actual point of that? I see with the stable coin, but then like I asked you, like, what other stable coins do we know of coming to PulseChain? As far as I know, is none. You mentioned one that was maybe a scam, and one that was like
you also. And listen, I wasn't privy to a lot of the private conversations with that Oracle service too. There are a lot of major protocols that are hesitant to come to the chain. So when you finally land one, but they don't want to be public either. They say, hey, listen, we're excited about this. We want to do this, but we're going to keep this quiet until the chain is mainnet. Like you kind of have to follow that. You're
talking about the Oracle protocol?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. So there's literally more than one reason, right? What if it had been Chainlink? They've already told the world that they're not coming over. But what if they hadn't? But they talked with Fiat and they said, well, okay, we'll spool up all our nodes. We'll have everything ready, but we still don't like Richard Hart. It's a little weird. Like, we're not sure about this chain, so this must stay under wraps. Sign this paperwork, non-disclosure, until mainnet goes live, and then we announce. Okay?
So
these things happen. This is normal business practice with when you're talking about billions and billions of dollars at stake, or companies or organizations' reputations at stake. Some things just happen a certain way and have to stay under wraps up to a certain point.
So the fiat protocol is already just pointing towards PulseX during their testnet phase. Why did Liquid Launch choose not to just go ahead and launch a testnet product and just point to PulseX? Like, you guys can still bring on your third-party Oracle at some point, but why not just launch a testnet product so we can play around with it, check out for bugs, and just have it point to PulseX for right now, because that's shown to work perfectly fine.
By the way, just to clarify, that's how all testnets work. Testnets never use oracles because oracles pull from exchanges, and unless there's an exchange that also has a testnet version of a T-Pulse, you just can't. You don't use them. It's impossible. Right. So the only place you can ever get a price or feed on a testnet is straight from the DEX. Right. There's a number of reasons why testnet is not released to the public yet. One, even though that the Oracle deal was not necessary for a testnet, I think it was important to get that infrastructure in place and built, because it is part of the code. There's lines of code that point back to those oracles, and the commitment has always been, when the testnet is released to the public, that's the exact same code that will be for the mainnet version. Nothing will change. You will see, maybe even fiat protocol, that the testnet version is wildly different or significantly different from the mainnet version. So why even release it? Just so people can play with it and have a good time?
Well, same reason why you guys talked about releasing the bug bounty program, to actually see if things break, right? And this is what
exactly. That's why the code has to be. That's why the code has to be identical.
And that's going to lead into my next question, which I was asking you is, I was like, hey, liquidity, is there any difference in the code, or is it just a straight fork of liquidity? And you pretty much said it's just a straight copy of liquidity, right? So what are the other issues of not just bringing that over to testnet? And I think your answer to me back then was making sure the front end looks good, and like everything, like you said, the user interface is much better than anything liquidity or any of the forks have done before. But to me, I don't see why, if it's just as simple as a fork coming over, why not just go ahead and get that on testnet? Even if the user interface has to change at some point, I think that's more than fine to go ahead and give people operating testnet, SAC balances, all that stuff after this length of time. I feel like that's reasonable. But what are some of the objections to that? Because you've told me it's ready to go. It just, it's got to come from higher up.
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing that people are going to see, I've seen the SAC balance checker. I've seen everything's ready. The last thing that was being built, which is done, is a ticketing system, which is going to be really neat, actually. You don't want to release balances to people without a way for them to communicate if they have any questions about the balance. Richard did the same thing. This ticketing system is going to be the same ticketing system that's used if people want to reach out in a trustless fashion to the team, even with the mainnet DApp. Okay, so what's been built, it's really neat. People can go and they can generate like a passphrase, like a seed phrase sort of deal. Just like if you're going to Tornado Cash and you get like a string of characters.
Right.
And then you use that to log back in and then continue your communication with the team. So you don't have to give up a phone number or a name or email or
any
anything
KYC.
like that. But you have a way to communicate any issues or questions you might have about the protocol. So that was built. That was built for the SAC balance checker deal. But it was also built for the testnet version, like so that anybody who has questions or comments about how testnet's working for them, they can use the same thing, and then that'll carry through to the mainnet. So while the protocol was done, it was like, well, wait a minute, let's take this a step up. We've got some extra time. PulseChain's delayed. We could do all this messaging through Telegram, but then we know who people are, and people are kind of almost doxing their wallet addresses. Why don't we do this right and create a ticketing system that will work all the way through the testnet and through the mainnet version? So why haven't we seen any of these things? Because we added that.
But I mean,
And
off
it's
the
gonna be
merit
cool,
of your
and
own,
it's worth the wait.
off the merit of your own response, it's done though, right? So like, I know you're gonna tell me it's any day now, but like, we got that same thing like a month ago. So now that that's in place, what is that final straw from releasing SAC balances at this point? Because I mean, at this point, if there are issues, you want people to look into it, do the calculations, and submit those tickets. So this should be the announcement of SAC balances, right? Not quite.
4 more weeks.
4 more weeks.
Listen, I had a meeting with Dave and Christian just on Monday, and they said it literally could be any day now. They imagine they could be within 2 days. Of course, we've heard that before. We've heard that from Richard before. Oh, just 2 more weeks, 10 more days, whatever. So I hope that it's this week. That's not my decision. Dave and Christian will release the balances, and then Dave and Christian will also release the DApp for everyone to use.
Fair enough. No, I think it's interesting, right, too, because I do think you guys face a lot more burden from the community than any other sacrifice, right? Because you guys were the first, you were the largest, probably the most expectations, even though we preface those sacrifice phases, right, with no expectations of work. But this is like what I was telling you in the conversation. When the community does put so much trust and so much, essentially, their economic energy behind you guys because they believe in what you're building, I think that also merits some, effort and getting people what they SAC for as quickly as possible, whether that be SAC balances in due time, a testnet product, even if it's not 100%, if the UI looks a little different, I don't think people would hardly care. But to show them that their money is going to good use, again, I know you can always cop out back to the no expectations of work. But I think at this point, I think it's pretty fair to go ahead and start giving people SAC balances so they know how many tokens they've received and a testnet product so they can go in there and check out liquidity and get used to working with stablecoin, the staking feature, all that stuff. I think those are fair expectations at this point. And it's
worth noting and also when you say, I just have the caveat, something you said, none of the SAC money's moved. So their money, so even saying, of course, no expectations, but saying that any of the SAC money is even being used to build this is just, that's fundamentally false.
Yeah,
really.
but see, like I didn't make that implication, and then it's the same thing. Like, and I'll use this to kind of lead into like one of the other questions that I had for you earlier when we were talking about like team token allocations, right? Like, because I know initially the stance was like, hey, we don't want to give you guys like the totals and stuff of the team tokens that might lead to expectations of work. But then you could go back and preface it too with like, well, we did know this OA address and we could go and see exactly how much funds it have. And like, that would be the same premise of like, oh, well, you might have expectations of work. It's like, no, we know how much tokens, we know how much value is in here, but it doesn't mean we necessarily have expectations of it. So I know you shared some information with me as far as the team token allocation. I don't know if you can state that publicly or if we want to.
What you end up seeing on like Liquidity is the same that you're going to see with Liquid Loans. There's like 75% of all the total supplies with the community, 70 to 75%. Some of that's in the reward pool that gets released to the community. The rest are like in the hands of the community. And with Liquidity, it was with venture capitalists and whatnot. With
see, and like,
and then there's, but that was separate from their team allocations, by the way.
Okay, so there's even more. So there's a higher percentage, right? Okay,
right. So what you'll end up seeing with Liquid Loans is it's similar, except the community has, instead of venture capitalists, the community has all these tokens. Where does that leave? Well, that leaves somewhere around 25% or so. That's in various other functions. Maybe some of that's with the team, and then some of that is with some pools for bug bounty programs or this or that. But the vast and by the way, anything that would be with the team has unlocks over a long period of time, years. That go out past any of.
Can we go over the details that you and I discussed publicly, or as far as time locks? No,
we can't. But there will.
So they're not 100% set in stone from what you and I discussed earlier, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's fair.
So they're examples, and the community will end up seeing all this. But anything that the team has is locked up long past what the community has.
Wait, the community will be made privy of all the team tokens and time locks and all that information at launch?
Well, it's all in smart contract. They'll see that at launch. At the
so
very latest, like you can't have the protocol without that being known.
Okay, so but I mean the allocation for the team tokens will be, you will actually know which tokens those are. We'll know those addresses and we'll know the team allocations.
I don't know what.
I understand all the tokens will be minted at launch. We discussed that, but like you're saying that like, oh well, of course the community will know about the team tokens, their lockups, and all that. So for that to be case, all that would have to be made public. I don't know what random address owns this, but if I know these are these team token allocations, these are the 5 people that got X amount of tokens. This is how the time lock period. Then I would be able to actually make that connection. Whereas all the tokens just get released and I have no idea who they are, who owns what percentage or anything like that.
Right. There's probably still going to be a level of anonymous to some degree. But it's not hard to figure out. If you see some smart contracts that lock up some tokens with maybe a release schedule over a period of several years, it's easy to say, oh, look, these smart contracted tokens must be the teams.
Yeah, that'd be great. As long as it would be nice if it's that easy. It'd be just nice to just go ahead and just publicly release that as like good faith to the community, right? Like just like, hey, this is it. Like, I mean, we can go dig for it too.
And it does. It actually does make sense to release that, because once the thing goes live, like people are just going to build a chart off of it anyway, and it's going to be there.
So, but like you can't publicly say like, yeah, 100% we're going to release that information though.
I can't. And it's not my place to do that.
Right.
And you said it's not your place, Jesse, and I just saw a question in the chat. Do you have a replacement? Because you're a hard guy to replace, I would imagine. So, do you have a replacement? Like, what's going on with
He's done his job.
Yeah.
He's out.
Whoever asked that in chat, is there a replacement, a succession strategy for your position? What's going on with that?
I'm not sure. Somebody else asked Dave and Christian that, and they said it's too early to even think about that. What's interesting is if I just continue doing what I've always done and go on stream and tell people about the protocol and everything else, they're just getting a bunch of free work out of me, and why would they need to hire anybody else? We still got Jesse over there that's going to be the advocate for Liquid Loans. But I don't know. Liquid Loans has done a great job building a team of people to educate the community. You've got Matt, the YouTube influencer. We have Connor, who writes the blogs. And like between those two, it's really, you've nailed down a lot of the educational side of things. Then what you need a guy who's going to build a community. We've kind of done that. We're up to like 15,000 people. There's a good group of admins over there. They're all spread to the winds, preaching the gospel of Liquid Loans. So do you need somebody else? I don't know. Maybe you don't. Maybe they do. I'm not sure.
So that brings up another point that I've seen tossed around. It's like, okay, well, if this is like a DeFi protocol, you mentioned the great job of promotion, like the Telegram and all that has been built up great. The social is great. There's a lot of education out there, but like 15 to 20, I think at last count, people on the team, is that necessary for like such a protocol? Like, in your view, I guess.
So listen, a lot of those team members, when you go to the website and you look at who all those team members are, there's like 5 that are on the core team. And then there's a lot of people who are volunteers. So when you see the word ambassador, those are literally admins who we like. Some of the best, all the admins are good, right? They're all handpicked. I think almost every admin over in the Telegram was handpicked by me, actually. They're all great people, and they all get along, and they all love the protocol. And out of respect, and to give them a little credibility and give them a little boost in their crypto journey, we thought it would be a nice gesture to put them on the website and call them something cool, ambassador, right? So there are a list of names on there. You'll see that doesn't mean that those people have an allocation or they're in the court meetings and they're intricately involved on the back end in liquid loans, but they are admins. And out of respect, they're on the page because it's a cool thing when you're an admin. Imagine if you were an admin for Richard, and Richard contacted you and said, "Hey, I'm going to put you up on the Hex site because you're doing such a great job." That would be kind of cool, right? So that's what we did. A lot of those people are just like that, and a couple of those people are hired to, for temporary things. Like, there's 5 members that would have been the core team.
I have another question for you, Jesse, and it's a little pointed, but I know you can handle it. Would you? And I brought up this concern before. It seems like the stable coin for liquidity has worked in the past, and the forks of liquidity from Ethereum. Now, what has not done well is the loan token for liquidity in all these forks. The price chart just doesn't look good on all of them. Would you consider liquid loans a success if the loan token price chart looks terrible and just never recovers, but you still have a good, useful stable coin? Like, what are your expectations, and how would you feel if, let's say, the loan token looks like every other loan token that liquidity has had via its fork or the original protocol? Hopefully it's different. I want it to be the best, but from all the examples I've seen in the past, it doesn't look well.
Right. So if the loan token does what Pulse does, let's say Pulse does a 95% dip. If the loan token does a 95% dip, there's nothing we can say. It's likely to follow the price of Pulse. When the price of Pulse goes up, the loans get bigger, which means more yield paid to the stakers of the loan token, which means people are willing to pay more for it. The price goes up. When the price of Pulse goes down, people are paying back their loans. Or if they're under collateralized, other people are paying back their loans with the stability pool USDL, which means that there's less rewards. There's actually less rewards being paid out, less people taking loans, less rewards being paid out. The value of the loan token goes down. It's actually done that over in Liquidity too, but it had some other mechanics with the VCs dumping. They weren't there to stake. They could care less about staking. They wanted their tokens, and then they wanted to sell them and move on to the next investment. We don't have that. And when they launched, they literally
I push back a little bit on that. I know you consider VCs and team token allocations different. I have a slightly varying position on that. I think it's just the same to me as a VC that's invested time, money, and energy into a project. I think they have the ability just as much to not be interested in staking and potentially dump the price if they just want to receive some gains and just move on. So I push back a little bit with VC and team allocation.
All of those tokens were VCs and team. Okay. VCs and team. So, and by all, I mean maybe a couple hundred wallets. Okay. And right now they have 1,000 wallets or so participating. We have like 15,000 wallets. All those tokens are spread out across the entire community.
But 25% amongst 5 core members, like, again, not suggesting
but that's not
how they use their tokens, but that is enough to irreparably damage a price chart. If they so choose to sell their coins.
Could is in on a slightly different topic. I mean, I hear all this. Is there like, what other fundamentals are there built in besides, because I've seen liquidity, I've looked into that pretty hard. Is there other things built into liquid loans to look forward to besides what liquidity's offerings had?
Right. So instead of just a handful of investors who never had any intention on staking, whose sole purpose was to get in, see a pump, and then dump. And then, by the way, liquidity launched at the top of ETH, right? So when it's paired, when their main token is paired to ETH and ETH goes down, then their token has to go down. That's how everything on the chain works. That's how everything everywhere in crypto works. So their timing was bad. Their who they launched to was bad. Their vesting period they didn't have a vesting period like we do. It wasn't spread across the community like this. So we differ here is we have a larger community by far, like more, probably 12 times or so larger than their community. We're launching at the bottom. We're launching at the beginning of a brand new blockchain. And you have spread out for years people who have decided to lock up their tokens. So on day one of the protocol, there's actually only a tiny amount of all the tokens that are going to be released. It's not even like it's bigger than people. It's less than people think. For each month that you locked up, you got a bonus. You got a 6% bonus for every single month that you locked up, all the way out to 2 years. So the first tokens that are going to be available are literally in the hands of the people who had day one unlocked, and it's the smallest amount of tokens compared to the total supply. It's barely anything at all. And what that does though is it puts an extreme supply constriction on any available tokens, because there's barely any of them out there, and those people are likely to stake them. And then every month after that, you should see some price appreciation with Pulse, at least over the next 2 years. That would be nice. That's what we all hope for. So you have a little bit of tokens unlock every month to all those people who are vested, all the way out to 2 years, which gives time for the price of Pulse to go up, and then unlocks of all those tokens spread out through that 2 years as well.
So I would argue that the only difference is really market parameters of when you guys are launching. But the main difference, which you touched on, is essentially vesting periods for the team allocation and then the community members that sacrifice, right? I would say that's probably the only actual like difference when it comes to like code and the actual protocol itself. Now, my concern is kind of like something you'll see, and like, you know, it's kind of a catch-22, and it's there's
other factors too, though.
Well, I just want to get this last point out. Again, these are just those are external parameters. I like the actual difference in code, and I'll say that's the locked up team allocation and the sacrifice allocation. That's the only difference between you guys and liquidity as far as that's concerned. And I think something you'll potentially see, and we've seen it as Hex, whether to its detriment or not, where just like when you lock up these tokens for X amount of time, whether that be 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, the human nature, greed, what have you, because they've invested time, capital, energy into a product, they want to take gains. How much gains, that's yet to be determined based off the individual. So even with these vesting periods, you could still see very extreme price volatility. Again, this is what we're in the game for, but it could be very severe to the downside because people are ready to take their profits. And let's say the loan token hasn't done well and people are like, well, I just waited a year or two. Like, I want to get something out of this. And you just get that kind of extreme dumping pressure because people, regardless if they're vested or not, that's the only difference when it comes to the actual code. And that I don't know if that necessarily bodes well for the long-term longevity of the loan token's price.
Well, if Pulse does well, I believe that loan token is going to do well. If Pulse does a 100x, will we see loan token do 100x? Well, let's pretend for a second what that looks like. If your tokens unlock and they have already done 100x, you have a choice to make. Do you dump for some quick gains, or do you go ahead and stake those because you're going to get 100 times the value for staking those than somebody who would go buy them currently, right? So if I have a sum of tokens that have gone up so much in value that somebody else has to pay 100 times what I paid for them to get the same staking rewards, why wouldn't I take those tokens and say, let me just stake these? Because there's no way, like, why would you give that up? Your staking rewards also are 100 times more than other people's. Does that make sense? Like, so you literally have a choice. Do I dump, get some quick gains, or do I stake them and get 100 times the staking rewards as somebody who bought them off the open market today?
Fair point. But I mean, we see people giving up staking yields all the time. I'd argue Hex is one of the few that has actually been a successful staking protocol that actually has real repercussions and real delayed gratification. Actually,
but this is different because the staking rewards are paid to you in something different. They're paid to you in USDL and Pulse.
USDL. Yeah.
So instead of there being this burning desire to sell the loan token, you could sell the loan token and get some quick gains, or you can stake them. And if it's done 100x, you stake them and you get 100 times the USDL that somebody else would be able to get if they paid the same thing that you paid. They would have to pay 100 times what you paid for them to get the same amount of USDL yield.
Yeah, I think ultimately the only thing is, like, I'm just going off past history, and I've looked at liquidity and all the other forks, and they've all had the same outcome. So I was just trying to see if there was enough difference between what you guys are bringing to the table and what liquidity and all the other forks did, at least at a fundamental code base. And that's essentially the prolonged lockup period for team and sacrifices. Token allocations, will that be enough to give the loan token longevity or success? I don't know personally. Like, I err on the caution of kind of, past history is representative of what this is going to do in the future. But maybe those parameters, like you mentioned, launching at the bottom, being tied to Pulse, actually having a strong community, maybe that is something that actually gives liquid loans that success, that liquidity was missing on its original protocol and all the other preceding forks. So, I mean, that's something I think ultimately time will tell. It'll be a fun social. I mean, either way, I hope it's successful because PulseChain is just only going to ramp up with that, right? So time will tell.
And shout out
what up,
to
Hexo?
Yeah, what's up? We got a lot of people in chat. Trayvon's in chat, Hexo's in chat, Funding Gym, a lot of OGs and a lot of well-known people in this community tuning in. We're at a high for viewers on a Wednesday, not even our normal night, and an hour later. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is awesome. Big K, I know Motley has posed a lot of questions. Do you have anything else for Jesse on the liquid loans front? I know we have like a little Ethereum chat that we're going to get into here, but and/or Hexy Bastard.
And Hexy Bastard's here.
He just came in and been listening down below. But yeah, any other questions you got for Jesse regarding the liquid loans portion?
No. I'm not really fully like up to speed, but yeah, you guys were going deep, so I just thought I would sit here and listen.
Word. Big K, how about you?
I mean, so like how much of the profits that people will see from staking rewards on liquid loans going forward will be based? I mean, they're mostly coming off of people taking out loans and getting liquidated in
Nope, that's false.
Okay, no, I'm asking. Like I said, I have no idea.
That's the minority. That is
okay. That's a minority. So then, where's the majority of the?
So here's how that works. Whenever somebody takes a loan, there's no interest. There's no monthly interest payments or anything. There's a simple one-time borrowing fee, and that fee gets paid directly to the stakers of the loan token only.
What's the percentage of the fee? Just curiosity.
It's usually 0.5%. Depending on the health of the ecosystem.
Right.
It could go as high as 5%. So you'll see it fluctuate, usually around 0.5% to 1%, but it could go as high as 5% if Pulse is being really volatile and wild, for a while.
Okay.
There's also a redemption fee. That's part of the peg mechanism. It doesn't happen all the time, but if there are any redemptions of people redeeming USDL directly for Pulse, which is a thing, normally you'll see people trading it on the DEX, but there's a guaranteed redemption mechanism, which guarantees that there's always an arbitrage opportunity. So if USDL is cheaper than $1 over on a DEX, let's say it's 95 cents, you might want to go buy some because you can directly redeem it for $1 worth of Pulse directly inside the protocol. But there's a small fee to do that as well. It's typically 0.5%. That also gets paid to the stakers. So the stakers are collecting USDL and Pulse.
Okay.
Here's how a liquidation works. So that's the staking pool, by the way, for loan token. But there's another pool, and it's called the stability pool. When you take a loan, you can pay it back at any time. You can pay a portion back. You can pay the whole thing back. It's very easy. You just bring USDL in, and you just pay back your loan. But if your vault is under collateralized and the value of the Pulse that you have in there comes within 10% of the value of USDL that you've obtained, your vault is eligible for liquidation. And all that means is the stability pool, there's participants who have put USDL into a pool. They are collectively paying your loan off for you, and they are collecting your Pulse and getting a 10%. They're getting it at a 10% discount.
Okay. All right.
That doesn't mean every single person in the stability pool just goes up by 10%. You may see, I gained just a tiny bit of Pulse, but a little bit of my USDL burned. Because all that's happening is they're paying off your loan for you. And it's instant. What that does is it's called instant settlement. And
so
it solves the problem.
Though, as people join that pool to like continue to make whatever returns you have to like either continue to add to your ratio or
if other people enter any pool, there's dilution and you'd have to grow your position. Otherwise, you're always diluted. That's any pool.
Yeah. Makes it that I understand that a lot better now. That's no, it's not straight from liquidations.
So in that stability pool, you could pick up a little bit of liquidated Pulse from time to time, and some of your USDL might burn. But you're also incentivized to be in that pool because you actually get paid in loan token. Loan token that forever decreases in the rate at which it's emitting to the people in that pool. So like the emission rate is the highest at the beginning, and it just forever, every year it goes through a halving process, and it emits less and less and less USDL to the stability.
So it really so people's returns are going to really matter a lot on how many people are taking and using the protocol, as you know.
Right, but it's going to balance out, right? So you'll see people in the stability pool. And then if there's too many people in the stability pool, and let's say the yield starts to suck, then people will just leave the stability pool and they'll go over to the staking pool instead. Or they'll say, you know what, let me jump over to fiat. Or you know what, let me jump over and delegate to a validator. It's all of these staking.
Well, that's not going to be profitable.
No, not for some time. Not for some time.
Not the validator.
But anything that's stakeable, I feel it's all going to balance out because the people who like to stake like to chase that yield. So if PulseX has got a single staking pool and it's offering like 300% yield, you might see some people in liquid loans that are collecting 30% yield or something, and they're like, "Oh, let me withdraw my money and go jump in PulseX real quick and get 300% yield." But then you'll see the yield in liquid loans go up to 50 or 60, and then the yield from Pulse, in that pool over in PulseX go down to whatever it's going to go down. All these things start to balance themselves out over time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have we exhausted the liquid loans / breaking news list for this?
I got none others. Hexy bastard, you got anything?
Probably not on this one.
I'm good.
Well, as we keep hitting all-time highs for this episode in viewership, Dix Insider asks in a transitory question, who thinks the bottom is in?
Not me, I'm afraid.
You are Rex Cliff, sir.
Yes, I am.
When is bottom, sir? Okay, so we're talking. I guess we can just talk hex bottom, right? Because there's a lot of chat going on about hex price. So I especially want to get back to Motley because I haven't talked to him in a minute here about hex price, and last time I talked to him, he was quite bearish, I think, and maybe sub penny ish. So I want to go around the horn. Do you think the bottom is in for? We'll just talk hex right now. Now I'll just go around the horn. Start with Jesse. What are your feelings on hex price right now?
No, I don't think the bottom's in. I do. I've always been a believer that there's some correlation. Like if you look back at like when some of these pumps of hex happened, even while Bitcoin's going down, it's usually some sort of news thing going on, or like, hey, PulseChain, we're gonna make PulseChain, and then it pumps, and like, so mathematically speaking, everything is tied back to Bitcoin in one way or another. And if people are dumping Bitcoin, hex is going to go down with it a bit, unless there's some news event to make it outperform it again. And I don't think we're done going down. Rates just increased. We're getting a little pump now, but that's always like a little fake out pump after these sort of things happen in Washington. So they get all the little investors to jump in, and then like we should see it crash here in a couple of days, and it may crash pretty darn hard.
Couple days. That's a ballsy call, sir, and good for you for doing it. Big K, is the hex bottom in? Someone from chat wanted to know specifically your opinion.
Specifically my opinion. Oh, geez. The only guy who's been drinking and smoking on stream tonight. Brilliant. Don't do anything with this advice. I mean, I don't know. I like
That's the farm.
I mean, I like, yeah, I feel what Jesse's saying in the sense that like, do I think if Bitcoin nukes to 11K, then we're
going lower.
Then we cut in half. So like if that happens for us, or even anything close to that happens for us, then like we had talked about 2 cents before. I'm not saying that it's not impossible. Like that I still think is in the cards. Again, I really have this feeling like that if you're looking for a bottom, that like it would be somewhere between 2.5 to 1 cent, because it gets really hard to go lower than a penny when there's a lot of buyers that are looking to come in and expecting that price to be that, to not go like that. That's a huge buying opportunity in my mind. I mean, huge. So like that, I mean, I do think that if Bitcoin nukes to that far, that we could see that happen. I mean, we can't guarantee anything. I'm not, what do I know? But like, yeah, sure, maybe not entirely in. I draw lines up and I'm all like, yay, and then I draw lines down and I'm like, oh, and like the lines down look more realistic right now for the macro situation that we're in. But it's cool to feel the up now. Right now, I like the pump. I'll ride it. Yeah, good guess.
Yeah, I like Jesse's viewpoint about the Bitcoin price, because it's something that I share with him, and I think it's kind of like an unpopular thing, because it's in the Hexagon community. I think it's like the cool thing to say we're decorrelated, but really, and I've said this,
I think we learned pretty quickly.
Was given for free to Bitcoiners.
Right,
it's like saying like the Hedron price is totally uncorrelated to the hex price, and it's completely different.
What he's saying and what I'm agreeing with, and I think this is how he means it, is like, in the grand scheme of things, short time frame, obviously Hex has outperformed Bitcoin over the longer term, and it will continue to do that. But day to day, if you see Bitcoin down $1,000, Hex is likely going to be down. So if we see like a cut in half,
we've had these moments before. I mean, the COVID dip was one of them that was very unique, and Richard has, and like in defense of Hex, there's been many Flores lava tweets in our existence. We've seen them. We've seen plenty of those. So like, is this like, can that be a narrative that exists? For sure. I totally think that's the thing. And I do think that like Hex's cycle is slightly, off from the typical crypto cycle and by a few months. Like we peaked at a different time. We're moving through it at a different, a slightly different rate. I think that could be argued for.
What if our community is just slow to arbitrage, right? So you get a floor as lava for a day, but then the next day Hex is down below everything else.
Back to lava.
I mean, that can be the case sometimes, but I mean, like, I think that we're well known, and it's not like we're that fun bad at crypto. Now, I mean, I do think that there's like, I mean, there's plenty of those times that like that like there's reality to that, and you can see that in the chart. I mean, we are up over Bitcoin, we are up over Ethereum over time. So like we have like there's been more of those than not, So like I'm cool with, like, and I do think that we can exist in that again, in that paradigm again. And I think there's a chance that we pull out of, somewhat depending on Pulse launch, potentially pull out of the bear market quicker than find a bottom quicker than everything else that's out there. I do believe that that's all possible, but I'm also don't believe that.
Get off the fence,
macro,
sir.
I don't believe,
Jesus
but what I'm
Christ.
saying is that I don't believe that the macro scene is done seeing a bottom yet. Like I don't think that I think that we go lower until the end of the year in everything, which I mean, if your everything bubble is being deflated, then so is the useless parts of of things, and then so is going to be even the things that are worth something. Everything is losing value. I mean, yeah, I do think that we can go lower. Like if that's what you're trying to, you want to get me on a stance, Motley, then yes, I think we can go.
By
lower.
God, you did it.
I don't want.
It took some time, but we got there.
I don't want to believe it. I like this chart right now. It looks cooler than it did. A month
Everyone
ago.
loves green candles.
All right, now we get down to Motley Investor, but first I need to bring up this comment from Dixon Sider because Big K and I are hockey guys. Henrik Lundqvist, best goalie of all time. Go fly a kite. That's all I'm saying. What do you want? He's a great goalie, but I'm just saying.
He's a great goalie. I don't know about the best of all time.
Anyway, Motley
Did you
Investor.
catch Richard say, it's possible to see Hex at half the price it is now if once PulseChain goes live? Did you catch him say that?
Yeah,
and there's a real reason for that, right? You literally have all of us who may decide we've got the same economic energy we've always had, but now we want to put it across two different chains, so half the buy pressure on each chain.
Split.
But the same sell pressure.
But I don't.
And hey, here's another thing that
I don't think that'll be the case. I think it'll be mostly focused
up,
on P-Hex, obviously.
I always bring this up too, that whenever there's a fork of a coin in a lot of these situations that I've seen as far as I've been in crypto, when a $10 coin forks into two different projects people there's actually two different communities there. I mean, it doesn't fork into a 5 and a 5. It's like a 5.5 and a 6. There's a little bit more value oftentimes on both sides of them. I mean, I can't guarantee somebody's not going to try and correlate that to bear or bull market kind of shit. But I do find that, and generally speaking, when both communities get whatever they wanted, because a lot of times it's because of a split in opinion or whatever people's direction they want to bring the project. When people get what they want, it's better for both communities. So I think that whenever there's a fork or a split or something like that, there can often be more value there. I mean, than there was before. So I'm not saying it's going to be your $5 thing and you're going to be worth $5 on the next thing. I don't think that is necessarily a thing. But I do think that, when it splits, it'll entice more people to play. There'll be more, buyers on both sides. If it's successful, you'll see more economic energy enter the system. So
there we go. All right, Motley, finally to you, sir. You were, I think, in the sub-penny clan.
Don't put words in my mouth.
I think you were, sir. If we go back on some streams.
Go back.
I would like to.
Go back.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Well,
where are you now?
Thanks for funny. I'm same place where I've always been. So.
And where's that? Tell us if I'm wrong.
I will let you finish. You done? Tell me my price predictions and stuff. So, I mean, ultimately, I kind of know with Jesse on this. Like, I feel like we just need a little bit more pain. I think this could be a little bit of a fake out. But either way, like, I've kind of positioned myself where I'm primed to take advantage of either or, right? Like, if we do start mooning from here, we get a PulseChain launch. Cool. I'm fine with it because we're fortunate enough we have the opportunity of PulseChain, PulseX coming into. So let's say I've allocated a cash position now. So like if I don't get the price that I want, let's say the bottom is in, then I can refocus my attention to the new ecosystem, PulseChain, PulseX, whatever else I want to invest into. Plenty of opportunity if you don't get the necessary like your necessary entry that you want to go in at, right? Now, do I feel the bottom is in? My gut tells me no. I think there's still more pain. This could be a little bit of a fake out. If I had to guess where the bottom is, it's probably around that 2.5 to 1.5 cent range. I think like just Big K was talking about 1 cent. It's just way too much buy pressure. Do we run into the situation where this bear market gets extended though, and everyone blows their load at 2 cents or 1.5 cents? Maybe, but I think that's more unlikely. I think that 2.5 to 1.5 cent range is pretty good if we have another leg down. But I've essentially prepared myself for either way. I have my cash reserves. If we do hit those targets, then I'm okay of making my buys. If it goes a little bit lower than the 1.5 cents, so be it. You know, I'm okay going down further from there. If not, if this is the bottom, I have the cash reserves to go put into PulseChain, PulseX, whatever I want to do on the new chain and take advantage of there. So I think we're actually in a very good spot right now where you could take advantage of multiple things depending on whatever direction we go. So I think if you play it smart, I think you'll be fine. Just stick with your kind of price levels that you want to enter in. If you miss them, so be it. Look to the next opportunity, which is going to be PulseChain, PulseX, and allocate your cash reserves wisely over there. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this. My gut tells me we're still in for some more pain. This wasn't enough for a real bear market.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
I was hoping the Fed would nuke I hope they were kind of going to shock everyone and nuke it more than 75 basis points, but they didn't. So I think you could see a situation where Mt. Gox coins come out and you have sell pressure from that. Another Fed raising rates again. I think a combination that could push us down that last little leg.
I think that if they went 50, that would have tanked the market really. I think people want them to be on top of this for
anything outside of what everyone was expecting, which was 75 basis points, I think would have probably caused the markets to go down today. But so far, this was on track for what everyone was expecting.
Pixie bastard, you poor pleb. Win man, you. What are your latest feelings this week on the hex price? Have we bottomed, sir?
I don't believe so, unfortunately. I'm very much the same as Motley. It does look good, and I've kind of put myself in the same sort of place, but I think it does look like it's about to take a leg up, but I don't think it gets past like 8 cents, and then it goes down even further.
So
we're a cherry bunch.
All right, there we go. Get on him, Hexo. Get on him. Yeah,
more pain.
That's right.
But that's not like necessarily a function of Hex. It's because of everything else as well.
The macro.
Like everything else looks terrible. Like I was looking at Ethereum earlier and it did bounce a bit today, but it just don't look good. Yeah, nothing looks good, man. So we could be going, if everything's going down, I don't see how Hex can stay up, really. Decorrelation was nice when it was happening, but it's not happening by default all the time. There has to be a reason, like Jesse said, with some kind of a news story or some kind of a rumor or something's happening.
And I mean, it doesn't mean that we're not more resistant to it, but at the same time, Big K goes down to 10 or 11K, Hex is going to take a hit. Just is.
Yeah.
Not escaping that.
It went up too much too quickly. So it's bound to have like that bad horrific dip. And it's the first real bear market in Hex's history.
It went from,
isn't it?
I mean, just under a penny to 50 some cents.
Crazy.
Solely on the news of PulseChain. And then people were surprised when PulseChain was delayed, and then people just started selling, and it's not back to where it was, because you still have new users that came out of that, new people that like to buy it still, but I don't think it'll go below the 0.008 that it was before Richard said he was going to create PulseChain. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think that happens either. I think maybe a penny and a half to 2 pennies if it's violently. I don't think it's hitting a penny. Too many people want the penny, right? I just don't think it'll quite get there.
I agree with that sentiment. And Bitfinesse, shout out to you, man. 75 basis points sounds huge. 0.75% sounds small. Yes, correct. LOL. What about Johnny Chaos's comment? Because I've talked to him, and he's mentioned this a bunch of times, I think. If you listen to the guy on different channels, pairing Hex, like the liquidity pair on each chain after it launches, back to Jesse's point about prices on different chains, could they be locked in tandem if like the pools are big enough? And I got sirens, of course, as I'm talking.
I mean,
with the copies?
Yeah,
the free copies?
Wait, you're talking about just
like,
Hex?
Hex and or E-Hex and Hex, I guess, is the correct.
You're going to have one that is always going to be doing better. I think best case scenario that you could probably hope for is like one lags behind 15-20%. I think that's the best case scenario, but it could be a lot worse than that. I think I mean, the way things are shaping up, I think E-Hex is ultimately going to take a very large dip, at least initially. So I think if anything, even tying a lot of liquidity to it, I think you're still going to have E-Hex lag behind Hex on PulseChain.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario.
I think there's a chance that I think there's a chance at parity with Hex above anything else on the chain. I think
it's better at these price levels, that's for sure. Than when it was initially, like 20.
I mean, again, cents. The closer. I mean, it's like they said, there's some arbitrage opportunity in the sense that like staking and unstaking on the Ethereum chain is more expensive. Moving coins around on the Ethereum chain is more expensive. So like whatever that price differences between the chains, I can imagine that like that will exist, you know. So I mean, there should be no reason why you shouldn't expect that, you know. But that's best case. I'm talking best case scenario. They're very close, but like there's a little bit of separation there, you know, if they truly are both as sought out on each chain, you know. And
you realize we're gonna have 4 contract versions for Hex, so we're gonna have native Hex on PulseChain. We're gonna have bridged in Hex on PulseChain, native Hex on ETH, bridged over from PulseChain to ETH, bridged Hex that's now residing on ETH. So we're literally gonna have 4 different versions of Hex to pick from, and it's gonna confuse some people as they're looking at a liquidity pool and they're like, "Oh, which one's the right one? The E, the W? What's it supposed to say?"
I mean, contractually, it'll be 2, right? And then the other 2 will just be wrapper variants.
The segue into Cabana's next point. When ETH merges, there might end up being 2 chains, as miners like to mine.
If it's contentious.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody can fork a chain, they're gonna try to. And if that happens, then there might be more.
A lot of hexes. But I mean, we've kind of talked about that in the past, like years down the road, 10, 15 years, who knows how many variants of hex can be. And it is something to think about, potentially split by pressure. Like there is a chance that one of these hex variants can die off. And do you want to be left with not having the successful hex? Probably not. So ultimately be careful trading in and out of your one or the other position.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the same thing with like in general with Bitcoin through all of the Bitcoininess that has happened over the years.
Imagine if you decided to stick with the original Ethereum and you decided to go Ethereum Classic, you chose wrong, right?
Yeah, so just sitting on your both is probably better than not.
Yeah, Johnny's still on it in the chat. 10 billion to 10 billion. Who's got enough coins to change that ratio? No one. And I see Hex Machine is on his side. So interesting. I mean,
it's a possibility. We don't know.
I mean, again, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I just think that I love it. I want that.
But with that liquidity, then we run into issues of price pumping, right?
Correct. So like,
take it. How much does the OA want to get involved and try to manipulate the market? Like it could if it wants to, but is it going to? We will see. But I think that's something Hex is always going to have. Like you're going to see Pulse is going to probably have more liquidity than any of the other, like a Hex token, for example, right? Like I think you're going to see a lot more liquidity for stuff like Pulse and probably even PulseX than you've ever seen for Hex. And I mean, that liquidity is what gives us those crazy gains in Hex. So it's gonna be interesting. Are you gonna get that 10,000x out of PulseChain, PulseX? Maybe not. Maybe it'll take a lot longer if you do. We'll see.
That's what that's what I've said from the beginning. Is I think it'll take a little longer than people.
But a lot of people get PulseChain and layer ones easier too. So you got to take that in and do all these big influencers. You know, we've been seeing BitBoy butter up the Richard. Like, you know, he's kind of getting ready to position himself. I've always been his friend. Like, you know, you can very clearly see him on Twitter, how he's aligning himself. So maybe BitBoy and you see a bunch of other guys start coming over and, you know, that's something Hex never had in its corner. So who knows? Who knows what that does to the price?
Well, they'll need it all, you know, like I think that, you know, if you want to make it pump super hard, I think that in the market conditions and everything else along the way, and the fact that a lot of people sacrificed for it, it'll need it all. So get to it.
Well,
is there any update on when PulseChain's coming out, by the way? Like, I've been a little bit out
bro. Yeah, I know
Tomorrow.
the exact date. I talked to Abit, and it's November 18th. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Cheers.
Of last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whenever that was. Yeah. So.
I think I heard someone say something about January, but I don't think there's any factual things behind that. And then I heard someone talking about you know, the highest of stakes is doing that final yacht scene. Like maybe that's when they announce it. Who knows? I think it's very clear that no one knows. When everyone's saying, "Hey, it's gonna be mid-May," like bet your bottom dollar, and guess what? It wasn't mid-May. So,
it is very clear that no one knows.
Yeah, no one knows.
Almost certainly 2 weeks or less. A couple of months.
And Richard
ago.
said he's not saying.
Yeah,
It's not
we don't
now
get
because
more
we all got
warning.
angry, right? We were all like, "Fuck it." Well,
Yeah.
I didn't, but a lot of people got angry. Yeah.
If you're pretending like you know the date, fuck off.
I actually hope it's next year, man. If like the macro is going to continue to be shit, we might as well wait a few more months and just
Weed
get
out
it
some of
when
these
it's the bottom.
fucking crybabies. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's all good.
Launch it at a lower price than people paid for SAC as well, please.
Hey, it's possible this shit could dip at launch. A lot of people are counting their chickens before they even hatch, right? Like the shit could dip below your SAC rate. So get ready. Again, that's what I was saying.
It could be below it and stay there for a while, and I hope
exactly.
so.
That's what I'm saying.
There's enough
Motley
sentiment
wants
that.
So, yeah.
Put yourself, and that's what I was saying. I've put myself in a position where I can go either way, right? Like I can, if we're fortunate enough to get that, I have cash on hand. If we're fortunate enough to get that another leg down in Hex to those price levels I want, I have cash on hand, right? We have two different opportunities in two different directions that you could snag if you put yourself in the proper place. So just think of it that way. Don't let your emotions start steering the ship at this point.
This is true.
That's right. Emotions get involved in poor decision making follows.
Did we talk about ETH 2.0 yet?
Not
we
at all.
didn't, but we have like a full show left. You want to come back on next week, Jesse? Are you available next week, Jesse?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, let's do that because I mean, really, that's like a whole nother show, and I really want to like. I know.
Yeah, and I
like,
did do.
have
I did
yeah,
do a
have to
little
go
bit of
here.
research, so
And
I
we've
wish
been-
somebody from the audience could
Go for it.
find out how many times the ETH Deads have said that ETH 2.0 was like a month away or whatever.
A good
And then
amount.
What are we
it-
at? So, is there?
Because
We
it's been
talked
going
about
on
this
for
last
like
week.
6.
Like
It's
September.
been going on for like 6 years now.
Yeah, September.
God, when
18th.
this fucking PulseChain does the same thing.
they're
Holy
merging.
Question
goes on
for
for 6
you,
might get
XOGs here.
They're merging their 5th testnet this next month. Here.
Quick question for you, HexOGs here. So, does anyone have a count on how many times Richard said 2 more weeks when you lot were waiting for Hex? So I wasn't around then.
Are you looking for a PP
4 more
meme,
weeks.
sir?
I might be.
Okay. You were fishing. You were fishing.
I'm
It-
fishing
it's-
for something.
I was getting, it was obnoxious. Like, and I think all of us were getting so annoyed by the end of it. It's just like, bro, stop telling us it's 4 more weeks. And just when it launches, just let us know. Because like he kept saying it over and over and over again. Eventually it's just like, okay, we get it. Haha, it's funny. Like, don't want to hear it anymore. And it's kind of, I think it's starting to get the same situation with PulseChain. People are just like, fuck these like time predictions and all that stuff. Now just like when it releases, maybe give us 48 hours heads up and let's do it. But yeah, we heard it a lot back in the day.
I really like this comment. I like this comment from Flames. Someone make a bullish case.
Oh, I was gonna make a bullish case.
No, don't do it. Don't do it because you're gonna kill my point, which was like, if there's no bullish cases being made, then we could be closer to the bottom.
That was exactly
her mentality is wrong.
It was my exact bullish case. I was like, if all of us say we go down, then like we can't all be right. In fact, we probably are all wrong. We're all so
this could be a bottom, but
maybe
be prepared for both, right?
I must say, last time I was on here, Cabana, you was talking about the Adam and Eve pattern, right? And it's doing that right now. Actually, it's done like the big V, and now it's doing like a
few
long
Adams, I guess.
bottom.
But the Eve is playing out. So yeah,
the Eve's playing out definitely. But yeah, there's so many trend lines going down, man. You have to break so much resistance. It's like it probably will pump. It might be the bottom, but it doesn't mean that we're just going to go like boom straight up or anything.
We have a lot more levels of resistance on the way back up. That's for sure.
This is true. We could
imagine what Hex was 10x the price of this a few months ago.
7 cents for a long time, for months and months. It's true.
But with certain amounts of buying power that could be on the sidelines, I mean, you do see some big buys of 5 million tranches, 7 million tranches of Hex being bought at a time,
and some good set like length stakes of good amounts too. So
you can buy a lot at this price. So that's why I think like getting like penny sub penny, I find it hard to believe because many big players can come in and scoop up a lot.
It goes both ways though too, right? Like that's what makes like Hex TA kind of stupid because like of our liquidity, like a big buy or big sells can really just send us down out of nowhere or send us to the moon out of nowhere. So it's like to play the TA game with Hex is a very dangerous game because you just have no idea.
This is true, but sometimes you do see like if it's a sell, it usually gets bought up really, really quickly. Like if someone violently sells it, but when it's a buy, it seems to just like grind down after a few days. Because I remember when Godwale sent it last time, and it was like everyone got bullish for a bit, but then it just grinded down for what felt like forever.
Imagine this bear market continues. No sign of PulseChain on the future. We're going in 2023. People have blown their dry powder months ago. Like these situations,
you guys have still got dry powder.
Bro,
like, we're talking this dry powder. Seriously,
people blow their dry powder early.
Someone make a bullish case, not continue the pain. That's not.
I'm a masochist.
We've all become.
I think we're all just being greedy though, man, because we know we're fine. Like it can keep going down. It's fine. Just like I wish it would go lower. On
everything's fine. Everything's
reasons.
fine right now.
Everything's fine.
I'll be one of those that blows my load too early if I hit the price points I want. Fuck it.
And to prove that I am still doing just fine, I have a dinner that I have to make.
You do that, sir. Let's tell everybody. Let's chill ourselves really quick. I know Johnny KS wanted to get in here. Come in next week, Johnny, because I'd like to get Jesse back because we have a whole ETH section that I'd love to get to. We didn't even get to this because we've had great conversation regarding the liquid loans and Hex price, and so we'll do the ETH merge discussion next week. Whole bunch planned. I might even try to get a special guest who just replied to me that couldn't make it, but he might be able to make it next week. Jesse, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter. Just ask Jesse. Go check it out. I got a cool video of Vitalik telling everyone he's dumping on their heads.
I seen that earlier. Love it.
Are you going on Telegram?
Yeah, same name on Telegram. Just ask Jesse. And I'm in like tons of rooms. You'll just find me in any room.
Yep. Big K, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me at Big Krakowski on Twitter and at Big Krakowski on Telegram. I think there's an underscore on Instagram or whatever. I don't do anything really on there. If you
should, sir. I bet you have some great content.
I probably would have some killer content.
Yeah, you would.
Anyways, if you can also find me here, and if you want to take a look at the Highest of Stakes documentary that's coming out, I'll be in that too. That's about it.
Motley Investor.
Yep. You guys can find me, Motley Investor, all platforms. Go in our Telegram chat, t.me/Legion VC News. If you want to go buy merch for PulseCon coming up, you can go to hexmerch.com. If you're one of those dirty altcoiners, you can do altcoindrip.com. Yeah.
When PP on altcoin drip.
Whatever graphics or
T-shirts, graphics. Don't ask for graphics.
Just send it over, and we'll print we'll get it all made. Just send me whatever you want.
Nice.
You grizzly bears. Damn you, grizzly bears.
Bring the moon boy.
Time for y'all to get hibernate.
Taking the balance. Balance to the force.
Where can we find you, sir, as my battery runs out?
He wants to talk moon.
Oh, he does. Yeah, we're gonna run out of time. Let me get Hexy Bastard. Where can we find you?
At Hexy Bastard everywhere. If you want to sacrifice for a stupid fucking meme coin, go to corepleb.win. That's the pitch, guys. Stupid fucking meme coin.
Check out last week's show, a happy hour show, if you want just debauchery. Johnny
that
Chaos,
was really funny, man.
Yeah, Johnny Chaos. Thank you for coming on. I know you want to talk. Can you come on next week?
I'm not letting you guys out of here.
Can you come on next week?
I gotta go, man. I got work in the morning, bro.
Come on next week.
Now.
You're at Chaotic Creations. Give us your handle before I run out of battery here.
DCFX Studios on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny, let's go start a Twitter space or something. I'll hop in and we can talk. That'd be fun.
There you go.
Do you know how to do it?
Send me a link.
I don't want to set it up.
I don't want to go on the Twitter spaces. I didn't want to come here, but y'all being so damn bearish, it was driving me nuts.
Twitter spaces is good though. You bring in some.
I could
blood.
go get more power, but who would we have left to stick around? Would anybody stick around, or we good for the week? It's all up to you guys. I can probably.
I do gotta go. I do gotta go.
You gotta go. All right. See, I always wanted to say that. I go, mate. There you go.
Johnny wants to talk about the moon so bad.
I think we can go there. I believe too. It's just a lesser percentage.
Yeah. That's why I'm prepared for either way.
All right.
There are differences, right? So there are things here that are different. Okay. What everybody makes the same mistake of is they compare things that are what they have known before, what they have experienced before, and then they try to apply it to something that does have different mechanics to it. And they say, okay, this is the same thing as everything else, but it's not. And there are reasons for this, but we're not going to get into it until next week.
I just worry that no one has any money, bro. Literally, that's the kind of issue. Everyone's broke.
Okay, so Gary's running around hanging out with billionaires.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of money down on the island down there. You know.
I was going to say,
we have a Grayscale trust that is currently in private. It hasn't gone public yet. Okay. There is only 87 million hex in the case, which means 8 people can buy 10 million without ridiculously moving the price. There are metrics here that people are taking into consideration. And as far as losing money because people are going to sell one side or the other, that liquidity can be permalocked, and it has nothing to do with affecting the price, because a 1-to-1 hex ratio has nothing to do with the USD value of hex. That is a separate ratio. That is hex versus USDC or whatever the coin is there. So the price on that liquidity could be a small pool, still allowing the price to pump, but you bond the liquidity of 1 hex to 1 hex by excessive liquidity pools that nobody can match, and you can't move that to a 2-to-1 ratio. And that forces parity via arbitrage because you can't move the liquidity.
And that is a great tease for next week's show. So, Jesse, I would love to have you back. Johnny Chaos, I'd love to have you back for this conversation, because we've talked about this, and I know you've mentioned on other streams, and I think it's worth its own.
I'm excited to hear more. I can't wait. I'm very excited.
I
have to go. I'd like to come on because I don't think Richard's going to do that, and I'll explain why I don't think he's going to do that. But
I can explain why he will.
Good. Is it tease?
Fight to the death.
Week,
one will
likely Thursday of next week for happy hour. Thank you, everybody. On a Wednesday, not even our normal time, we killed it with viewership. We're going out the highs basically. So thank you guys. Awesome chat. Thank you, Jesse, Big K, Motley Investor, Taxi Bastard, Johnny Chaos, the OGs in the chat, the plebs in the chat who probably know Hexy Bastard, and all of the other regulars. Thank you so much. We will see you next week for a show that's already lined up. It's going to be awesome. See you, everybody. Thank you.
Later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.